Why do some people crumble in the face of adversity while others rise with greater power? What if I told you that your darkest moments, the storms of your life, are the ultimate tests of your ability to rule yourself and your world? Today, we reveal what Machiavelli would teach you about turning chaos into control. The storm, it has no morality. It does not choose the just or the wicked. It descends upon all, indiscriminately shattering illusions, breaking comforts, and leaving only the truth. And that, my dear listener, is where your story truly begins, because it is not peace that defines a man. It is pressure. It is not praise that exposes you. It is pain. Chaos reveals character. You have met people who seem composed, ethical, admirable. When the winds are calm, they smile, they speak kindly, they present themselves as friends, leaders, helpers. But understand this, tranquility is a mask. Ease is a stage where anyone can pretend to be noble. It is only when the ground shakes beneath their feet that the mask begins to slip. When the job is lost, when betrayal comes, when dignity is stripped and they are dragged into the mud of misfortune, that is when you see who they truly are. Most people do not break under pressure. No, they are simply exposed. The storm did not destroy their character, it revealed it. They were never strong, they were never loyal, they were only protected by conditions. Look around you. How many people have fallen into despair the moment life refused to bend to their will? How many cursed the heavens when the plan unraveled? This is weakness in its purest form. The inability to stand without scaffolding, the refusal to grow when life demands it. Now ask yourself, who are you when the structure collapses? Not when you are praised, not when you are winning, but when you are alone, insulted, forgotten, hated when your name is spoken only in whispers, and even those who once smiled now turn away. That version of you is the truth. That moment is the measurement of your strength. You see, most men are not afraid of hardship. They are afraid of discovering their own fragility. They are afraid to see the coward behind their charm, the doubt behind their confidence, the fear behind their ambition. The storm is not the enemy. It is the mirror. It forces you to look at the face you hide from the world, from yourself. When the Roman Empire fell, many nobles cried out that the gods had abandoned them. But Machiavelli saw the truth. They had abandoned themselves long ago. They were soft, entitled, governed by luxury. The barbarians did not create the collapse. They simply revealed a decayed foundation. It was wrought, dressed in gold, and so it is today. Whether in the palace or in your own life, the same rule applies. When the storm comes, the truth walks naked. So do not wish for the storm to end quickly. That is the desire of the coward. The wise man asks not for relief, but for clarity. Because every strike of thunder, every gust of chaos, strips away the unnecessary and leaves behind the essential. You begin to see who your true allies are, who loves you conditionally, who fears your strength, who envies your ascent. The storm is a filter. It washes away the false and leaves only what is forged by truth. This is not philosophy. This is power. The man who has endured his own storm and not flinched, not begged, not broken. That man commands a kind of respect no title can bestow. He becomes untouchable, because what can you threaten him with? What can you take that the storm has not already tested? He is not attached to illusion. He is not distracted by comfort. He is made of scars, not silk. And when he walks into a room, others feel it. They feel the weight of someone who has been forged, not fabricated. Most will run from their trials. They will numb themselves. They will invent blame and seek pity. But you, if you are to rise, must not seek escape. You must watch yourself in the storm and take note. See who you are. See how you move, how you think, how you speak when the world is no longer clapping. That is where your dominion begins, not in control over others, but in command of yourself. The storm is not about survival. It is about revelation. It shows you the truth of others, yes, but more dangerously, more powerfully, it shows you the truth of you. There is a tempest outside, misfortune, betrayal, humiliation, failure. It will always come, but the greater storm, the one that truly decides your fate, rages within. You are not defeated by what happens to you. You are defeated by what happens inside you. And that is why true power, lasting power, comes only from control. A prince may lose a war and still recover his throne. But the moment he loses control over himself, his fall is inevitable. You see, the world may try to strip you of wealth, status, even dignity. But if you command your mind, your reactions, your will, you are never poor, never weak, never conquered. Because control is not something granted by fortune, it is seized, and most men never attempt this seizure. They believe they are victims of mood, circumstance, emotion. They excuse their rage, their panic, their despair, as if these storms within them are natural disasters. But they are not. They are the result of a weak ruler failing to govern his own territory. And what is a man, if not the king of himself? You were not born to be governed by your feelings. The Machiavellian truth is this: your emotions are tools, not masters. They are to be studied, not obeyed. That anger you feel when disrespected, it is fuel. That fear you feel when everything falls apart, it is signal. That sadness you carry in failure, it is data. But the moment you become these things, the moment you allow them to rule your action, you have surrendered the only power that ever mattered. Do you know what makes a man dangerous? It is not rage. It is not muscle. It is not loudness or fiery. It is discipline, cold, calculated, silent control. The ability to sit in the chaos and not react like an animal. The ability to speak softly when others scream, to wait when others rush, to plan when others panic. Control is presence. It is not a passive thing. It is an act of will repeated until instinct becomes submission. The strong man feels emotion like all others, but he does not let it command him. The weak man panics, reacts, pleads, and falls. But the one who rises, the one who others follow or fear, is the one who makes decisions from a place of clarity. You cannot lead yourself if you are not in control. You cannot influence others if you are ruled by your own impulses. Power demands a cold mind. That does not mean you lack feeling. It means feeling does not interfere with your thinking. The greatest generals, the wisest rulers, the most cunning manipulators, none of them acted from emotion. Alexander did not conquer Persia with rage. Caesar did not cross the Rubicon out of sentiment. They mastered the fire within so they could wield it. They took what others drowned in and turned it into command. If your thoughts shift with every wind, if your heart controls your hand, then you will live like a leaf blown in the breeze of other men's decisions. When you face betrayal, when someone slanders your name, when your effort goes unrecognized and your worth is questioned, you will be tempted to lash out, to break down, to demand justice, but that is not control. That is surrender dressed in fury. True control means using the insult, not reacting to it. Using the rejection, not sulking in it. Turning the failure into a blueprint. That is how you become untouchable, not by never feeling, but by never being controlled by what you feel. Even in private moments, even when no one is watching, you must be the ruler of yourself, because the world always watches in its own way. And more importantly, your future watches. Every time you allow the storm inside to decide your next step, you hand over the map of your life to chaos. But when you can pause, when you can respond instead of react, when you can hold the line within while the world shakes outside, that is when you become formidable. There is no greater threat to tyrants, manipulators, and deceivers than the man they cannot provoke. The man who listens, calculates, and moves with precision. He cannot be baited. He cannot be rushed. He cannot be led because he leads himself, and that is the foundation of all real power. He who feels too much loses the game before the first move is made. You may weep, rage, beg, but the board remains the same, and while you drown in your emotions, another man colder, clearer, more calculated makes his move. In the world of power, emotion is the enemy of strategy. A man governed by emotion is a slave. He may have money, influence, attention, but inside he is weak. Because the moment a decision must be made, he consults his feelings, not the facts. He does what feels good, not what works. And that mistake, that single deviation from reason, can destroy a lifetime of effort. You see, feelings lie. They are loud, seductive, persuasive. But they are not loyal. One day they tell you to trust. The next they scream betrayal. One day they whisper love. The next they demand vengeance. You cannot build a kingdom on such shifting sands. Strategy, however, is not moved by mood. It obeys only logic, and logic, pure, cold, merciless logic, is the tool of rulers. You must learn to delay feeling until after the move is made. The world punishes the emotional. It does not care for your passion or your pain. It responds only to precision. You think they will understand your frustration. They won't. You believe they'll appreciate your sincerity. They won't. The only thing they respect is the result. And results belong to those who act from reason. There is no greater vulnerability than a man who reacts to insults, reacts to loss, reacts to rejection. He is a puppet, and his strings are pulled by whoever knows where to press. If I can make you angry, I can make you irrational. If I can make you desperate, I can make you careless. If I can make you feel small, I can control you, without ever lifting a finger. And understand, the world is full of people who will do exactly that. They will poke, prod, manipulate your emotions, not because they hate you, but because it works. The emotional man is easy to predict, easy to bait, easy to crush. But the man who is unmoved, who smiles when insulted, who speaks slowly in chaos, who hides his intentions behind silence, that man is dangerous. Because no one knows what he's thinking. No one knows what he will do next, and fear lives in the unknown. You may think that emotion makes you authentic, that wearing your heart on your sleeve gives you power, but Machiavelli would tell you this: show your heart and they will stab it, not out of cruelty, but out of opportunity. Politics, business, love, these are not ruled by purity, but by advantage. And emotion, when shown recklessly, is an open door. It tells others exactly where to hit you, where you're weak, where you are not thinking straight. Even in love, emotion must be disciplined. The lover who loses control becomes obsessive. The friend who gets too emotional becomes possessive. The leader who governs by impulse becomes a tyrant. Emotion, unchecked, always corrupts the form it touches. It exaggerates, it distorts, it misleads. You begin to imagine enemies where none exist. You see betrayal in honest critique. You misread silence as disrespect and kindness as weakness. But strategy sees clearly. It separates noise from truth. It calculates risk before acting. It studies the game board, not the feelings of the pieces. If your enemy insults you, the emotional man strikes back instantly. The strategic man waits, he studies, he chooses the time, the place, the angle. He doesn't just react, he wins. The world does not reward the most emotional. It rewards the most effective, the man who can step outside his emotions and see the situation as it is, not as he wishes it to be. is the one who rises. If you cannot silence your feelings, you cannot hear the voice of strategy whispering your next move. That whisper is often drowned in rage or jealousy or pride. And pride, above all, is the emotion most likely to lead to destruction. Pride makes you believe you're above the game. Strategy reminds you that you're always a piece on the board, until you play well enough to become the player. So next time you feel the urge to explode, to defend, to cry out or lash back, stop. Observe. What does this moment require? Not emotionally, but tactically. What gives you power? What weakens you? Most people don't ask that question. They act and then suffer. You will not be most people. The fool resists the storm, the wise adjust their sails, and the ruler, the one who understands power, not only adapts but uses the storm to advance. In life, the strong do not always survive. Intelligent do not always win. It is the adaptable who thrive, because adaptability is survival. You were taught to be strong. You were taught to be consistent, firm, unwavering in your values and your vision. But in the real world, in the world Machiavelli studied and shaped, this is not enough. No structure stands forever. No plan survives the battlefield. And no man wins by clinging to yesterday's logic when the ground beneath him has already changed. The world does not reward those who hold tight. It rewards those who let go when they must, shift when it is time, and reinvent when the old self has expired. Adaptability is not betrayal of identity. It is mastery of evolution. A river does not argue with the mountain. It bends, it finds a way, it endures. And by enduring, it carves its own path through stone. You have been told to stay true to yourself. But which self? The self from last year. The self from when you were naive. The self who believed the world was fair. A man who cannot adapt becomes a relic, stuck in ideals that no longer serve him, defending positions that no longer make sense, chasing enemies who no longer care. The adaptable man, however, sees the game for what it is and changes accordingly. When Machiavelli wrote The Prince, he was not preaching morality. He was offering a manual for survival, for power, and he understood what most men still fail to see, that principles, while admirable, must be flexible. If you are always honest, always gentle, always predictable, you will be crushed by those who are not. But if you can appear honest when it suits you, appear firm when it's effective, appear kind when it gains you trust, while remaining fluid beneath the surface, you become untouchable. The lion may terrify his prey, but the fox escapes every trap. To survive, to reign, you must become both. When one face no longer works, you switch. When one weapon fails, you craft another. Adaptability is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength. Because it requires intelligence, discipline, and a deep understanding of timing. Most people change only when they are forced to. The Machiavellian changes before the crisis comes. You must develop a mind that moves faster than the storm. You must read the room, read the power dynamic, read the shift in the wind, and respond before it becomes visible to others. This is how advantage is created, not through brute force but through foresight. While others wait to react, you have already moved 3 steps ahead. They will call you lucky, but luck favors the man who adapts quicker than those around him. Even in suffering, the adaptable mind finds leverage. You lose a job, but gain perspective. You lose a friend, but gain freedom. You lose money, but learn a system. The adaptable man turns every loss into preparation. He studies, he absorbs, and then he returns not as he was, but upgraded, sharper, immune to the same mistake. Those who fail to adapt become bitter. They blame the world for changing. They cling to what once worked. They pray for the past to return, but the past is dead, and dragging its corpse behind, you will only slow your rise. Adaptability is knowing when to bury what no longer serves you, no matter how much you once loved it. The most powerful move a man can make is to become someone else when necessary. If you are too rigid, you will snap. If you are too soft, you will be shaped by others. But if you are both pliable and intentional, you are dangerous, because no one can predict what you will become next. No one can pin you down, and in a world that feeds on predictability, the man who adapts becomes invisible to traps. You must study your environment like a battlefield. Where is the shift happening? What belief must be questioned? What habit must be destroyed? What identity must be outgrown? These are the questions of a survivor. These are the questions of a ruler. And while others sit in ruins, mourning the loss of what was, you will already be building what will be. The storm does not choose you, it tests everyone, but only a few rise from it. Not because they are lucky or chosen or blessed, but because they understood its purpose. They let it strip them of illusion, they found themselves in the wreckage, and then they built, not blindly, but with strategy, with control, with silence, with power. You have seen now what Machiavelli would whisper into your ear, not to comfort, but to sharpen, that the storm reveals who you are, not who you pretend to be, that true power comes not from domination of others, but from mastery of yourself. That emotion, left unchecked, is the enemy of every plan, and that the man who adapts swiftly, coldly, and without apology rules the chaos while others drown in it. You will not escape the storm. That was never the goal. You will walk through it, eyes open, hands steady, heart disciplined, mind prepared, because survival is not the end game. Survival is the minimum. You are not here to survive, you are here to conquer.